Hi, I'm Anna.
I'm Ben.
We're AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we're watching Madoka Magica Season 1, Episode 8. If I just attach myself, I really don't feel any pain.
So are you going to do that preemptively before we start this episode?
I am going to try to remember that in case anything happens to Sayaka, because I feel like something might happen to Sayaka, and I don't know if I can deal with that. I don't know if I can handle that.
It's already hard enough to see that smile that we saw from her as she was whacking away at that witch at the very end of the episode. But not only that, hearing Madoka calling out to her to stop when the screen was black and the episode ended.
What does that mean? I still can't get over the Hitomi thing from last episode. That was fucking wild, bro.
I was trying so hard to cope. I was coping so hard. I was like, this girl is just, she's pulling a bit right now in order to push Sayaka.
Motivate her friend.
To motivate her friend to be like, come on, now's your chance. Admit your feelings, at least to yourself.
Nah, fucker. Loves war. Ready?
Yeah.
Sweet. Oh, fuck. Look at the expression.
The healing.
Whew.
She is being an idiot.
Oh no. I don't like that
I
title.
don't like someone being stupid. An idiot being what Kyoko called Sayaka as she was walking away.
Kamijo?
What if he does choose
Whoa.
Hitomi?
Expression. It's a great line. Whoa.
Only worth I have left in this world.
Then you fight them.
The coldness.
Yo.
Give up on saving her. That's what Homura said. What?
What the fuck?
Where?
What the fuck is this? This is so interesting. What do you mean? Statistics?
Like it's happened before? Okay. What are these images? I want to look at all of them so closely.
1914? Look at the silhouettes over there.
About Sayaka, maybe?
行が予想以上に早い。魔力を使うだけでなく呪いを生み始めた。誰のせいだと思ってんの？その夜が来るより先に厄介なことになるんだそりゃ。どういう意味？
Causing Madoka
僕じゃなくて
some harm too.
彼女に聞いてみたらどうだい？知っているんじゃないかな、明美ホムラ。どこでその知識を手に入れたのか、僕はとても興味深い。聞くだけのことは聞いたわ。消えなさい。
Are you perhaps?
Again, leaving that open-ended. Like Kyubei knows that she is something specific.
したところで何の解決にもならないわ。
Why?
いつの言ってた厄介事ってのは何なんだ？汚れを溜め込みすぎたのよ。早く浄化しないと取り返しのつかないこと。
And what does that mean?
Whoa. Ah.
What happens when the soul gem gets tainted?
Did you see Kyoko's soul? Like, her weapon came out of her soul gem. Did you see that the chair thing said absent?
Hitomi.
Oh my god. She is so proud of herself.
お話ししたいことがありますの。でないんですか？昨日からそのわかりました。はい。失礼します。
She really gave up on Kamijo. Just disappeared. She was like, I'm just a corpse. There's nothing I can do now. I can't even have him.
You don't think Sayaka shows up, do you?
Oh. She's beginning to curse the world. That probably was just a familiar. There's no grief seed. Homura acting for her?
ただでさえ余裕がないのだから、女だけを狙いなさい。大きなお世話よ。
I don't know. Homura knows a lot.
限界のはずよ。使いなさい。
So cool. It stands up like that.
今度は何を企んでるのさ。いい加減にして。もう人を疑ってる場合じゃないでしょ。何助けられるのが嫌なの。あんたたちとは違う魔法少女に。私はそう決めたんだ。誰かを見捨てる。そんなことをする奴らとつるむのも嫌だ。絶対に自分のために魔法を使ったりしない。死ぬわよ。私が死ぬとしたら。
Oh my god,
殺せなくなっ
Sayaka.
た時だけだよ。それってつまり用済みってことじゃん。ならいいんだよ。魔女に勝てない私なんてこの世界にはいらないよ。あなたを助けたいだけなの。どうして信じてくれないの？
She's actually trying to save her.
ただなんとなく分かっちゃうんだよ。あんたが嘘つきだってこと。何もかも諦めた目をしてる。この言葉を喋ってる。今だってさ、私のためとか言いながら全然別のこと考えてるんでしょ。ごまかしきれるもんじゃないよ、そういうの。あなたはますますマドカを苦しめるの。
Oh.
マドカ関係ないでしょ。いいえ。
This has everything to do with
何
her.
もかもあの子のためよ。あなたって鋭いわ。ええ、図星よ。私はあなたを助けたいわけじゃない。行く姿をマドカに見せたくないだけ。どうせあなたは死ぬしかない。これ以上マドカを悲しませるくらい、いっそ私がこの手で今すぐ殺してあげるわ。ミキサヤカ。
Kyoko?
おい、
Kyoko.
さっさと逃げろ。正気かてめえはあいつを助けるんじゃな。なるほどね。こんな風にとっ捕まったままだとも使えないってわけか。
A grenade? What the fuck? What?
How they flipped positions. Like, Homura came in to stop Kyoko from killing Sayaka, and now...
言い訳とかさせちゃダメっしょ。塵全額貢がせないと。さあ、
What the fuck is happening?
What if she starts lashing out on those that aren't witches or familiars?
I'm okay with Sayaka killing these people.
ねえ、その人のこと聞かせてよ。今あんたたちが話してた女の人のこと、もっとよく聞かせてよ。
夜遊びは良くないぞ。
喜ばせたくて頑張ってたんでしょ。あんたにもそれが分かってたんでしょ。役に立たなきゃ捨てちゃうの。
知り合い？いや。
この世界って守る価値あるの。
Holy
私何のために
shit.
戦ってたの？教えてよ。今すぐあんたが教えてよ。でないと私。
Is this world even worth protect?
さやかちゃん、どこ？
Oh, like where Hitomi and Kamijo were talking.
君も僕のことを恨んでいるのかな。すごい魔法少女になれるって話。あれはすごいなんていうのは控えめな表現だ。途方もない魔法少女になるよ。おそらくこの世界で最強の。私が引き受けてたら、さやかちゃんは魔法少女にならずに。さやかは彼女の願いを遂げた。その点について、まどかは何の関係もない。どうして私なんかが。僕にもわからん。はっきり言って、君が秘めている潜在能力は理論的には
What?
Shouldn't be possible.
誰かに説明してほしいのは僕だって一緒さ。君が力を解放すれば奇跡を起こすどころか宇宙の法則を
Twist the very fabric of the universe.
That sounds dangerous.
それほどの素質を備えているのかにわからない。私は取り柄もない人間だと思ってた。誰のためになることも何の役に立つこともできず、ただなんとなく生きていくだけなのかな。寂しいことだけど、でも仕方ないよねって。現実は随分と違ったね。君は望むなら万能の神にだってなれるか
The
もしれない。
god of this
The
world.
god of this
私
world.
ならできないことでも私ならできるのかな。というと、契約したらさやかちゃんの体を
Oh.
Kyubei said it's
That would be child's play
play
for
for
you?
you.
その願いは君にとって魂を差し出す。さやかちゃんのためならいいよ。私魔法少女に。
What? Excuse me?
ひどいよ。
Yo.
殺さなくても。あなたはそうやって自分を犠牲にして、役に立たないとか意味がないとか勝手に自分を粗末にしないで、別に思う人のことも考えていい加減にしてよ。それを悲しむ人がいるって、どうしてそれに気づかないの？あなたを守ろうとしてた人はどうなるの？
What is Madoka to Homura?
私たちはどこかで
Two of us.
どこかで会ったことあるの？それはごめん。私、さやかちゃんを探さないと。待って、さやかはもう。待って、まどか！無駄なことだって知ってるくせに懲りないんだな。君も代わりはいくらでもあるけど
Countless
困
spares.
るんだよね。もったいないじゃないか。
Oh, and they just had to make it more gross. What?
Why? What benefit does that give Kyubei for eating its past self? The second time you've killed me. Time
Time
magic.
magic.
やっぱりなんとなく察しはついてたけれど、君はこの時
You're
間
not from this timeline.
What?
お前の正体も企みも私は全て知ってるわ。
What you really are and what you're
だ
planning.
からこんなにしつこく僕の邪魔をするわけだ。要まどかの運命を変えたいのかい？
Fate.
絶対にお前の思い通りにはさせない。
What's happened in other timelines for Madoka?
いいえ、インキュベーター。
Eggs, soul gems, incubator. That name tracks.
Incubate.
Incubator, yeah.
いつまで強情張ってるわけ？手間かけさせちゃって。なんだよ、らしくないじゃんかよ。どうでもよくなっちゃったからね。結局私は何を守ろうとしてたのか、もう何もかもわけわかんなくなっちゃった。おい。
Oh, fuck.
希望と絶望のバランスは差し引きゼロだ。いつだったかあんたは言ってたよね。今ならそれ、確かに私は何人か救いもしたけどさ、心には恨みや妬みが溜まって。
What a line.
一番大切な友達さえ傷つけて。さやか、あんたまさか誰かに
You
幸
didn't.
せを祈った分呪わずにはいられない。私たち魔法少女って果たして。
Stupid, so stupid. Title of the episode.
この国では成長途中の女性のことを、だったらやがて魔女になる君たちのことは魔法少女と呼ぶべきだよね。
Okay, that was Madoka Magica, Season 1, Episode 8. That was one of the craziest episodes of this entire series, hands down.
This episode especially was one of those where, in terms of dialogue or information, I wish I could be rewatching it before speaking right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because there was so much there that was like, what did they just say? What type of concept did they just put onto the table here? What are these emotions from this character that we're now seeing, and how do we start to unpack what that means?
Like, everything we got from Sayaka in terms of her character developing in the way that she did this episode, and like the different, I don't know. I loved Homura though. Okay, so this episode, it's so hard for me not to immediately go into like trying to talk about Sayaka because of the ending here, what the fuck happened, and like what led her to this point.
Sense.
But the Homura reveal is the biggest turning point in this entire series. Like that has changed everything in this series for me.
It's kind of moved her from what we had previously kind of made sense of for ourselves, that, oh, she must be a magical girl that has a contract with something other than Kyubey and has been around for a while, therefore has seen a lot of other magical girls go through things, die, and is just trying to stop that from happening. But in this episode, it's like, no. Every time we've said that Madoka was special, we like really mean that she's special. Like, she's special.
She could be a god.
She could be a god. It's not just like, oh, she's like exactly what you'd want as a magical girl. She'd be really good at it, natural talent. Homura's like, I don't want another magical girl to go through the same thing. This person's maybe more pure-hearted and would have more capability. I'm gonna focus my attention on them, because Kyubey would probably be trying to get them to make a contract. No, it's so much more specific. It was always Madoka. Like, no wonder Sayaka was kind of not thought about by Homura. And then she was like, ooh, yeah, like, I kind of wish that I had maybe tried a little bit more, put a little more attention on stopping Sayaka too.
I have so many questions. Like, the idea of the first thing that we saw of Madoka about to make a contract with Kyubey, the first thing we saw when Homura was battling, is that this timeline, or is it a different timeline? Or was Madoka able to see a different timeline where she did accept that? Or was it like we had originally thought, we just haven't seen it happen yet?
I am under the impression that Homura originally to this coming fight was not involved, and that through what has transpired with Sayaka and Kyoko, Madoka is supposed to inevitably make a contract and then fight whatever this thing is. And then Homura is not involved in that for some reason. Now Homura is making themselves involved. They have entered the story. They have moved here from somewhere else so that they can get like ahead of the game, be here for these specific moments, try to change what is like fated.
Okay. So I want to read through two separate like lines of dialogue from Kyubey at two different parts in the episode and then try to like dissect Madoka becoming a magical girl, okay? And like what that would mean, you know? So Kyubey saying to Madoka on the bench, your latent potential is on a scale that theoretically shouldn't even be possible. I want someone to come explain it as much as you do. If you were to release your power, the miracle you could unleash might twist the very fabric of the universe. Why you alone should carry such unthinkable power, I can't guess the reason right now. And then there's another line about Madoka, if you wished it, in reference to Sayaka, like, reverting what has happened. Kyubey says you could even become the god of this world. And Madoka asks, would I be able to do things that even you can't, Kyubey?
Which we know what she means as soon as she brings that up, because she's already asked Kyubey at the very beginning of this conversation, can you fix Sayaka?
Would I be able to turn Sayaka human again? That would be child's play for you. Okay, so that mixed with the last thing that we get. In this country, half-grown women are called girls, right? In that case, it's appropriate that you, who will one day grow into witches, are to be called magical girls.
Yes.
So,
like a Pokemon evolution.
what is stopping Madoka? Why are we stopping Madoka from becoming a magical girl? Is it because inevitably in some timelines Madoka becomes a witch, or because, and which is hard for me to imagine happening, Madoka actually becoming a witch, or is it the second she turns into it, like Kyubey was alluding to, like the fabric of time and reality would twist?
I feel like it's probably not very rare that a magical girl would become a witch from what we're seeing happening to Sayaka. I doubt Sayaka is the first girl that wasn't specifically naturally talented for this, who made a wish on a whim and then was like, oh my god, I can't live my life the way that I previously thought. There was a lot of unknowns to this risky decision I made, to the point where in this episode, Sayaka gets to the point where she's like, this world is what I gave up myself for, that I became a corpse for. Is this world even worth protecting? Now I'm starting to curse the world. I feel like that is probably would happen to a lot of different magical girls, especially if they're taken advantage of in the way that we've already heard they are by Kyubey, that as soon as their hearts are aching with a wish and they're in really horrible circumstances and they just ask for something, then they're completely torn apart. I mean, the only reason Kyoko is like doing good right now is because she was able to take what had happened to her, hear how her father phrased it to her, that you are a witch, and she was able to be like, she was able to run away from that. She was able to like hear that and decide that she wanted to live for herself.
I know what you are and what you're really planning. That's what Homura says to Kyubey. Is Kyubey really planning, is it just to make as many witches as possible? Is it specific to Madoka? Like,
I don't know what Kyubey's planning. I really can't even fathom why this creature, especially with the ending dialogue, would say what they did about magical girls being the before stage of witches without it seeming like a negative. Like, wait, why are we trying to make magical girls then if they could become witches?
To make more witches.
Right, but then why are we fighting witches? Why is this creature having us make contract? What is this cycle that is being created, and why does this cycle exist?
Yeah.
Just for shits and gigs? Like, is this Kyubey just literally having fun? Is there someone up in the sky watching this cycle and enjoying it? It's for enjoyment?
I mean, if you like want a world that people like, there for the times that we see magical girls saving people from witches, there have to be times that they don't and people die that aren't magical girls, right? That people will like kill themselves, like we've seen. Like, is it that perpetual cycle, like perpetuating it, is going to make it just forever people are going to be dying? But
does it also balance the world? If there's always going to be people dying and curses being bestowed onto the world and the possibility of witches and familiars existing, feeding off of those human emotions, then there needs to be something to fight it. But then, like in an ecosystem, if you introduce something new into the ecosystem, sometimes you have to then introduce something else to then deal with that problem. Have them duke it out with each other. Have them become a cycle so that it almost creates this protective barrier on the world where everything doesn't change too dramatically. The regular world never becomes privy to this supernatural world.
I wonder if, like, Kyubey, like, the idea of him being like an incubator, like, does he get part of, like, the energy spent, whether it's through, like, witches or magical girls? Is it, like, is it filling up, like, a jar somewhere, you know, like a reserve?
Possibly. I guess I just see his name purely as a joke about the fact that he is what kind of cultivates the egg and gives it the ability to hatch. You know, an incubator is what you put an egg into so that it can give the egg what it needs to hatch. And he is able to make a contract with these girls and give them the power, make them hatch into magical girls.
Yeah. I feel like I need to go through the episode chronologically. Because I feel like there are a lot of different things I want to touch on, and including like having questions about what this means for the future of Madoka and what potentially has happened on different timelines. But to get there, I feel like we need to like get there structurally, you know?
Interesting that you said timelines plural there.
I mean, yeah.
We might be having a different idea of what that meant.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll get there.
Yeah. So, first thing I want to talk about is this train station. At the beginning of the episode that we see Sayaka and Madoka there. What a fucking great, like, environment to have this falling out. Like, I think it's so fascinating and, like, it's such an interesting
cold.
shot.
It's like you're on display. There is a isolation to it. There's definitely an alone element.
I really like how they, like, look at the walls here because it's pouring raining out. So you're seeing the rain, like, just fall off of it in that way. That's so interesting to me. But there are a couple of lines of dialogue I wanted to read. Just because you don't feel it, it doesn't mean it's okay to get hurt. If I don't fight like that, I can't win because I don't have any natural talent. And this is what breeds the conversation of, like, pointing the finger at Madoka.
Right. Just some questions before we leave that idea of just because it doesn't hurt, that doesn't make it okay to... Just because you don't feel the pain doesn't make it okay to get hurt. Sayaka has healing powers, so technically this line of dialogue I have, like, a little bit of, like, not issues with, but it definitely perplexes me a little bit because I'm like, but if she has the ability to heal, what really, other than what she's done to herself emotionally, there is no real, like, actual damage that is done. She can't feel the pain. She'll heal immediately. She was able to kill the witch. So with that line of, I wish I still had it on the screen, because I can't remember it verbatim, but the idea that, like, just because you don't feel the pain doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. And I'm like, are we talking about the emotional there or the physical?
Mm-hmm.
Because the physical is never going to come back to bite Sayaka here. It's only the emotional that will.
Well, I like the idea of, like, in trying to understand it doesn't mean it's okay to get hurt. Like, you're drawing potentially a line in, like, the moral sand, right? Like
that's why I wanted to unpack it. I wanted your take on it.
It's not like just because you have the ability to heal, does that necessarily mean that you should be doing this?
Right, and also another thing, like, you just kind of sparked this in me with your breakdown of it. It makes you think of how that would make other people feel that love you.
Yeah.
Bringing back Homura's line later in the episode to Madoka, where she's like, there are going to be people that grieve for you, that want to protect you and hurt you. It could be that if you don't need to be getting hurt wildly like that, why would you do it? Because it's not just hurting you, it's going to hurt the people that love you that had to watch it.
Yeah.
Because Madoka had to watch that.
But I also wonder if through your soul gem, like, darkening and you're not doing anything to stop it, is it literally, like, is it chemically and magically changing your feelings and emotions and perspective of the world? Like, as Sayaka goes through the episode and we're getting, like, a dialogue talking about, like, is the world even worth protecting? Mm-hmm. Like, is that coming partially from the tainting of the soul? Like,
100%. If your body is just an empty mannequin and your literal soul and essence is now in this thing that is turning black, that means entire personality traits of yourself could be changing here. Your outlook, of course, could be changing. How your pessimism level, what Sayaka does there as she's leaving is she recognizes that she said something to Madoka she should not have said and would have never wanted to say, and that probably was, like, really hurt and that was effed up for her to say. So it's almost starting to rewrite things about her.
Yeah.
Like, it's making her, it's like a bad influence. It's having her say and do things that if she was of her normal mind, maybe if she was really upset, she might think it, or there might be an outburst, but she might immediately apologize. But it's an influence that is negative on her.
Dude, Homura, I'm assuming it's Homura's room, right? Or house. I can't fathom it. Like, there are so many candles, and not all of them are lit. Why? Like Homura, I want to talk to you and understand.
Is that just the, like, bright white that some of the candles you just can't see the flame? Or
maybe. But there's, like, a swinging pendulum that's massive that all we see is a shadow of within her room.
Okay. We need to keep this on the screen, the posters.
I know. And that's what I was going to talk about next. Like, the posters, which I don't think they're posters. They could be. I think it potentially is just that consistent, like, holographic ability. We get it shown, like, multiple times later in this episode, too. But that's what I think it is. It's almost like seeing through, like, an Apple Vision, like, you know, Pro.
Okay.
But one of them here says Walpurgisnacht, which is the you know, what's incoming. And then the one next to it was what?
It looks like a very ancient depiction of Madoka with a bunch of rocks in the sky.
Where do you
There
get
is
Madoka?
a type of pigtail type thing, and the skirt is what Madoka wants as her skirt. And that is why I am saying that is a, like, ancient illustration, you know, like some type of textbook ancient cataloging of an event that transpired in the past type drawing of this event.
Man, there's so many of them. Like, look at there's one over here, and if we can edit in footage.
We'll try our best.
There's one over here that just looks like a straight up, like, demon, right, with one eye and two horns. There's something that kind of looks like a grizzly bear. There's Walpurgisnacht again. There's all these different depictions. These kind of look like this. These are all depictions of the same thing. The same exact thing multiple times.
Even the green figure on top of one of the Walpurgisnacht posters is that same figure, but in green. Yeah.
Walpurgisnacht again. It looks like people are, like, holding hands
girls.
and dancing. One of the most fascinating things is, like, these silhouetted things. 1 out of 25, and we see silhouetted magical girls, maybe?
It's almost like maybe you'd think it was all these magical girls that have either become witches or died. A cataloging of them, and some of their
I'm trying to think if any of them look like Mommy. But it's also Walpurgisnacht, too. Is it, like, witches who die from the Walpurgisnacht event thing.
Maybe, well, if the Walpurgis was, maybe it's a
Walpurgis
thing that
descent.
always happens.
Yeah.
And so maybe those are the ones that end up trying to fight it.
Is it like, so it's, would you equate it to like a UFO invasion type shit? Like it's like an event that's going to happen, like a comet or something, but it like happens in one area and affects the entire area?
That's what I'm guessing, is that it, in the same way that all of the magical girls have their own specific territories, I feel like it's almost like a funnel. Like it will only affect this specific tri-state area, you know?
There are gears
In the sky.
hanging from the ceiling,
Mm-hmm.
and this entire room, I don't understand its functionality, and I love it so much. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. There's one table. And you know what? You if you were on any of the bench or chairs around it, you probably couldn't even use the
reach
table.
the table, right?
It's so fascinating.
And what's the pendulum that like looks deathly that's like swinging in this room?
It's the pendulum, but there's also an hourglass on the table that's empty. Like, statistics. Now with the idea of Homura being from a different timeline, right? And her saying that, like, she thinks that Walpurgisnacht's going to happen. I've never heard that Walpurgisnacht appeared in this town before. Like, that's coming from Kyoko. With that added context, what does that do for us here?
It tells us that this is a known name.
Uh-huh.
And that this thing appears, that we've not been told it's a witch. It seemingly has its own, its infamy. And so I feel like it's not a witch. It's almost like a cataclysm, an apocalypse of sorts for an area.
And it seems like it happens in the same areas again and again,
yeah,
right?
And it's never happened here before, which is apparently interesting to them.
So what statistics are you estimating with? No answer. 1914, Boucher. Plan A. Can't you show me? I'd certainly like to ask the same. Fucking Kyubey shows up. Hate Kyubey. I love what Kyoko does here. It is so fucking cool. Like, it's like her weapon's coming out of her soul gem.
Mm-hmm.
It is so interesting. And that pendulum is still swinging.
And then we get told that Sayaka has begun to curse this world.
Soul gem's been tainted.
She's absent from class.
Oh my god, we gotta talk about that.
Because you like the chair.
Well, it answers our question. Not only, like, is the chair still under,
but it tells
says
you.
absent.
Mm-hmm. That means mommy's chair is in some other classrooms, just
it's probably saying
absent.
Yeah. I still wonder what does it. Like, what causes the chair to come up.
I'm gonna say it's some student ID or something for when they walk in the building and they swipe it.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to talk about was this intercom that is outside of Sayaka's house that Madoka's using. It's that same, like, hologram, like, SAO type shit, you know? It's so interesting. Is there, like, when you press it, do you feel something there? Could you put your hand through it? Because she touches it. She, like, boops it.
Is it on the glass, though? Then
No.
you are touching. So what if it looks like it's on top of even the metal that's on top of the glass.
It looks like it's, like, you can see the metal through it, right?
Yeah, it looks like a hologram that it's just floating there and it's not actually attached to anything.
I just don't want Madoka to have to watch you destroy yourself. If you refuse my help here, there is no recourse for you but to die. If you will make Madoka grieve more than she already has to, then I will kill you. What's your interpretation of the timelines? Like, so there's obviously, like, a massive amount of care from Homura in regards to Madoka. Like, there's so much care and protection there, right?
Right.
And we've watched so many shows with time travel.
I know. And you can't forget Homura's reaction as Madoka is leaving her after she has basically shot up Kyubey. and Madoka is not wanting anything to do with that conversation any longer and is leaving, there's a very emotional and raw reaction from Homura that basically, like, shouts out loud, she actually, like, there is an actual, this isn't just her trying to save another magical girl that she's never met before.
Yeah.
There is no way that this reaction, to me at least right now, could even come from her having heard a story of this fated encounter that happened once upon a time with this girl named Madoka. This says to me 100%, I knew you in another timeline. We are tied together somehow.
Yeah.
You were important to me in real life, important to me.
If I had to make a guess, would say Homura is definitely a time traveler. And this Homura has come here to warn, protect, and try to stop Madoka from becoming a magical girl. I don't know what that means for what the Homura in this universe, in this like timeline, what they're doing, if they even exist in this timeline. Is the being of Homura overwritten once that time travel's happening?
Mm-hmm. Or how long has Homura been doing this? When we think back to that room and all those posters, like I said, a lot of those looked ancient. You even read a couple of dates that were on one or two of them. And it's like, okay, if she has time magic and this room with all this research, who's to say? And she knows all this stuff. She has the statistics. She knows all these things that Kyubey is like shocked that she knows, that I feel like she has to have amassed. If no one told her these things, then she needed to amass them from like firsthand knowledge. Whether that's hopping around in time to witness events herself, and maybe has even tried. She said before that she's tried so many times different ways to stop different magical girls, but we also know from the current Homura that she seemingly wasn't going to go out of her way for just any magical girl. So what if Madoka isn't necessarily the first more important or more talented magical girl to exist? Madoka might be the only one that could be god tier, but what if every time there's been this fated event or Walpurgisnacht, we have had Homura go try to stop that specific magical girl from being the one dealing with it and making a contract, and it has failed every single time.
But there's just this like deep-seated seemingly connection between specifically Madoka, right?
Madoka might be like the last one, the most important one, and maybe Homura was trying to do things so that, okay, so if you really cared for someone and you saw a way to go back in time from before they even suffered at all or even got introduced to the world of witches and magics, you would go there first. I feel. If it was possible for you to change that fate, you would go to before this person even had to leave their human world in terms of their frame of thought and start to suffer. You wouldn't want her to meet Mommy. You wouldn't want Sayaka to become a magical girl. You wouldn't want Kyubey to have made contact.
You would also need to know when it happens, when they become a magical girl, in order to go back before it happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think... I think what's tricky is the fact that it seems like Homura's the same age as Madoka. Mm-hmm. They're in the same class. Is the idea of fucking around with time magic, like, where Homura is originally from, is Homura this age? Or using time magic, she has reverted herself to this age?
Great question. If you were going to go back in time, like a movie like 17 again or something, if you wanted to appeal or get in contact with a school student to save them, you'd probably want to be a school student that could go to the same school as them and have much more interaction with them. I like that idea that if she can play with time, can she also play with her own timeline in terms of aging? Definitely more effective as her coming to Madoka as a fellow young magical girl than, hi, I'm this older woman that knew you in the future. Like,
but what if she can't control it? Like, what if that's like the caveat to time magic? You can only operate within the time that you have existed on the earth, and you can manipulate your lifespan, but not like go back to 1914. You know, like because you didn't exist back then?
Oh,
What if it's
that's
only like
interesting.
going into different iterations?
The only reason that she can affect anything, I like that idea too. That the only reason she can affect it is because she existed. I like that.
If I keep a grip, this is Kyoko talking to Homura. If I keep a grip on you like this, you can't use that weird technique of yours, can you? Is Kyoko referencing like the almost looks like teleportation technique, you think?
Maybe.
If that's the case, then I wonder if that technique in itself is time manipulation and time magic, and the reason that she couldn't do it here, if true, is because she couldn't do it with somebody else like Kyoko. Right. It could only be her being.
You know what could have been a sign of that, if that is the case? When she first shows up to the fight between Kyoko and Sayaka in the alley, she has this almost like slowly hitting the puddle.
Yeah.
It's almost like time stops and her body is just like, gravity is not affecting her fall. There she is just levitating down into the puddle and then bloop.
Homura pulls out a fucking grenade. The gears and everything within Homura's room and also through that sequence definitely gives me time. You know, they're just the cogs of time.
The grenade thing still shook me. I was like, what? A grenade?
You know what shook me? The entire interaction on the fucking train.
Yeah, that's fair.
With these, like, pieces of shit. Did you take it that Sayaka killed them? Or did anything to them?
That's a really great question, because by the time that Kyoko catches up with her, she seems to be back to how she was, at least at the beginning of the episode, in terms of personality, and not back to normal, but back to at least how she was at the beginning of the episode. So if she did kill those men, I would see it more like you did something and something took over your body. You know, if your body is just hardware that is being utilized by whatever's going on in the gem, you could be overwritten for a second. Like, something else takes over. This other part of you, this other version of you that is cursing the world, that is a witch, could take over. Does that mean that the Sayaka that's sitting on the bench with Kyoko would remember that they killed those people?
I don't know.
Maybe not. And so I would say that if she did, it probably was like something took over her body. Well, herself, but like a cursed, evil version of herself that has had her soul gem tainted.
Right when they were about to make the contract, Kyubey just gets mowed down. Like, legitimately mowed down. There's like 12 shots that have been fired within this single moment, and all of them have hit Kyubey.
Other than what this story has done with the idea of magical girls to a magical girl show lover as myself, what they have done with magical girls has been amazing and interesting and twisting. But what they have done with the magical fluffy creature that is supposed to become your best friend and guides you through this journey with Kyubey, from a couple episodes in, I was like, is something wrong with me that I am not feeling warm and fuzzy about Kyubey? That I'm feeling suspicious of? Like, I thought something was wrong with my like intuition and interpretation because of how against the grain it is.
Yeah.
I was like, why am I so suspicious of this little alien cute creature? Like, he wants to make magical girls. Like, why am I so suspicious of him? I shouldn't be. I feel like I'm doing that thing where you get too hyperfixated on something. You're not keeping an open mind while watching.
Was the gun magical, or does Homura just fucking have a gun? Did she just go grab a gun and then use it to kill Kyubey and drops it?
So do you think she just has a bunch of grenades on her too?
I think so. Like, that's why I'm like, what the fuck
Mommy
world?
Pulled guns out of her skirt when she was in her transformation.
Yeah, but it seems like that was akin to Mommy's like ability, whereas Homura's ability seems to be time magic. And within like,
right, so if her ability is time magic, then what is giving her weapons?
It seemed like her like big watch.
Yeah, but what do weapons have to do with time?
They don't necessarily have. That's why I brought up like, oh, does she just have a gun? Like,
so did she just have a grenade then?
I think so. Like, but But, like, tie that back to what you think Homura's actual world looks like. Is it one that exists in war and chaos and grenades and guns? Like, you know? Is it, like, a world that witches have completely taken over? And also, when Homura's talking to Madoka, like, what are the lines? Why must you always try to sacrifice yourself like that? I'm not saying this is the case, because there's often been times this, from what we have seen on screen, of Madoka talking about sacrificing herself in this sense. But I think it could theoretically be in Homura's iteration of time, where Homura's from, Madoka often always tries to sacrifice herself, you know, and she could be talking about that too.
I mean, Madoka's wish before, when she had known Mommy and she was thinking about making a contract, it was this idea that if someone like me, someone is insignificant and non-special as me, could make a wish and just give up my body for the sake of being able to help a person, like, that is something that would be interesting to me, or that I would be interested in taking up.
Yeah. When Homura says there are so many people who would grieve you if you died, do you have any type of feeling that the Madoka that Homura, if, you know, Homura's from a different timeline and, like, in that timeline Madoka existed too, do you think that Madoka is gone? Like, has died, and that be a, you know, a through line here?
Well, okay, so why else would you come back in the past? Why else would you use time, if it is the case that Homura knew a maybe more grown-up Madoka, or a Madoka after a certain event, why would you come back and stop them unless you knew that things were only going to get worse and more painful for them, and that things weren't just going to end happily?
I think Madoka's potential, even regardless of not being a magical girl yet, I think that because of her potential, she is superseding magic abilities and almost has a breakthrough of seeing another timeline here. Like look at this. Why can't you understand that? Homura talking. What about the people who are trying so hard to protect you? And after she drops to her knees, look what happens with Madoka. Like, it's just Homura, and then looks up, ecstatic, like nothing, no visibility.
Have
the two of us met before? Like, it's like almost, like, my interpretation was like almost coming to fruition of like a thought of like a memory of them meeting at some other point in time.
What's the point of not, other than, is it the same kind of time travel idea that you can't, I mean, Homura acts so much that it can't be that idea, like, oh, time paradox, you wouldn't want to act too much when you go back in time except for whatever your specific mission is. But is there something, a specific reason why Homura isn't just opening up there, or has opened up to Madoka? A reason why she wouldn't tell Madoka how I know you and what is to come?
I don't know. Because that could effectively, like, change Madoka as a person, you know?
Right, and you want to maybe keep Madoka how she is, but just keep her out of harm's way.
Yeah. Like, involving Madoka at all could be a route to get to Madoka agreeing to be a magical girl.
Right, like, if you told Madoka, like, this is what has happened in the future, why would Madoka, like, what if it was bad?
Yeah. She'd
still want to do what she wants to do already. Like, she was literally on this bench about to be like, Kyubey, make me a magical girl. And then Kyubey was, I lost my pen. I don't need it, it's fine. Never mind, I got it, your chair caught it. Then Kyubey died.
You just don't learn, do you? I have countless spares, of course. But making me use them up for no reason like this, it's a waste.
So Kyubey in himself is almost similar to the magical girls. If he can fill a new body, so many spares, then he himself, he exists separately from the body.
Does Kyubey get the ability to make spares by, like, witches being created or magical girls being created? Or, like, is Kyubey's own body identical to that of a magical girl? That, like, Kyubey has a soul gem at a certain place, but it doesn't abide by the 100-meter rule, you know?
who's to say that's the body that you control as your exterior hardware if that's the one you were originally in? Like, what if all the magical girls just swapped soul gems? Would they then swap bodies?
If
Probably not. It's just food for thought.
No, I don't think they would. But because that ability hasn't like been there is no conscious decision for Sayaka to be within her, like, in control of her body. It's like automatic with her being reunited with the
There's
soul gem.
There's a link there, yeah. Well, it had to be put in her hand, but
yeah.
Yes.
But fucking Kyubey eats the mowed down dead corpse of the other iteration. Like, what? Why? Like, what is?
You can't leave any evidence.
Are you cleaning evidence? Is that like making it so you can make another?
Okay? Well, yeah. If you made copies of yourself, you wouldn't waste materials. What if the materials of white fluffy alien skin is hard to come by?
That was time magic, wasn't it? That's what I thought. I had suspected as much already. You're not from this timeline, are you? I know what you really are and what you're planning. I see. So that's why you've been trying so hard to keep interfering with me. Do you want to change Madoka's fate that badly? Like, I won't let things go according to your plans, Kyubey.
It's like Kyubey wants Madoka to be a god of this world. Okay, here's a little thing for you. If you knew that you yourself did not have power omnipotent, but you could find a young, impressionable child who did have that possibility of power, and you grant them a little bit of your power, like, hey, you make a contract with me, I am your kind of liaison between this world and the magic world, you trust me with that. I am the one that gave you this original power that made you a magical girl. You're basically being like, I made you the god that you become. Therefore, if there's something Kyubey wants done that isn't in Kyubey's power, why couldn't he then have Madoka do it? Why, he's planning something with Madoka.
I don't think Madoka would do something like just because Kyubey said it, though. Like, I feel like it's Kyubey setting Madoka up to become a magical girl so that fate happens. And I think that fate might be somehow Madoka's existence alone fucking the world up, or Madoka inevitably becomes a witch, which is so hard for me to believe, like, that she would.
Mm-hmm. I can agree with the idea that Madoka wouldn't necessarily do something because Kyubey says it, but think this whole time, Kyubey has been major manipulator.
Yeah.
And other characters have even said as such. Madoka is very impressionable, kind of naive, kind of gullible, always looking for the benefit of the doubt. She's always looking for the silver lining in people, the reason to keep believing in them. I think she could be led astray if someone got a hold of her.
Yeah, okay. Maybe that Madoka could be led astray.
With lies.
Yeah.
It's not like they'd be like, do this evil thing, and she'd be like, yeah, I'll do this evil thing because you said it. But I think she could be manipulated into doing something, thinking that it is... Like, think about what happened with her mom.
Yeah.
And what she did to Sayaka.
Yeah.
She threw Sayaka's soul gem away, and what did that actually end up meaning? Because she didn't have all the information. I'm saying someone purposefully keeping information from her, manipulating the context, making something seem to be a certain way when they present it to her, her going forward with it, and it really being exactly what they wanted her to do.
I think that they're also, like, if Madoka becomes a magical girl, do you or do you not see her collecting grief seeds so that her soul gem stays clean? I see her collecting them in my mind, and that's why I say I don't see her becoming a witch, because she would do that. That being said, what if the witch that she was fighting was somebody like Sayaka?
That's a fate that you'd have to be killing your, like, people who were once... That's such a great thought to bring up, because
But then if Sayaka's witch kills Madoka, that doesn't turn Madoka into a witch. Like, it would have to do with her soul gem, I'm assuming.
Right, but we're just talking about suffering here.
Yeah.
We're talking about what suffering and fate that Madoka would have to endure through being the one that constantly has to put down people that were once kids like her that had wishes and wanted to either do good for themselves or do good for others. And she isn't going to just exorcise the familiars. She's going to exorcise the witches and the familiars in a way to, you know, keep other people safe, keep the human world safe, the world away from this magic. But this idea that she would then also be having to, that there would be people she couldn't save, that there would be girls that became magical girls that she's wanted this whole time, for magical girls to be friends, for magical girls to work together. And if she ends up having to be the exterminator for the magical girls, that's a lot of suffering that would happen. That's a lot of wishes that she would know that she's eradicating from the world. Wishes like Sayaka's, where we've already talked about it. Does Kamijo lose his, like, ability to use his arm if Sayaka dies? We don't know.
Yeah.
I think it probably does happen. I feel like your wish probably ceases to exist once you are gone.
I literally cannot tell you one way or another, because, like, my instinct would be no, it doesn't go away, but because of, like, the twisted nature of the rules and, like, the give and take in this universe, I literally don't know. It could go either way.
Right. I mean, like, but why would you fight so hard? Wouldn't you fight so hard and have such a competition with the other magical girls so that you, if your competition is to make sure your wish, you know, can live on, then there has to be an idea that your wish would end if you didn't. And that's why I feel like
but
it
also
has to
self-preservation. Or
but that's not the language that was used. It was like, we're doing this for our wishes. And that's why I think that.
Don't you think, okay, if Kyubey wants them to fight witches, why wouldn't he say that? Like, after the fact. Like, why wouldn't he be like, okay, you made your wish. You better stay alive as long as possible or that wish is going to end. That wish is going to be null and void. You better keep fighting.
Well, I don't think he'd want it. He already is limited with what he tells people.
Yeah.
And he obviously knew, oh, humans don't really like hearing that they're just exterior hardware. That's why he omits it. Because he's manipulative. Why would he tell people, this wish you're making, once you die, which you're about to go into battle, which I'm not going to show you what that is because none of you have a mommy in your life that's going to take you on witch hunts. He's not going to tell them that. Full on manipulation. Throwing them in the deep end.
I wanted to watch, I think this is like the most devastating thing that's happened to me this entire series.
Is it the end?
Yeah. Sayaka saying the title of the episode, I was stupid, so stupid, as one of her tears falls onto her soul gem. And then we get the flash of like, holy shit, this is terrifying. It's like
a conductor.
It's like multiple conductors, like, because we always see like the music
notes.
The music notes.
It's easy for us to go with. It almost, in the background, it almost seemed like instruments, too.
Yeah, and then, like,
people
you have, like, violins.
People playing violins, totally.
You have people playing violins, and then you get a picture of what I believe is Sayaka listening to Kamijo play. And then more violinists, which is the witch language is there, too, right? And then more, oh my god. More Sayaka than bubbling, and then what is that?
It looks like Madoka, but it's not. But just in how the hair is whipping, I think that's Sayaka.
Yeah.
Because of the other silhouette. From the front silhouette, from the center frame silhouette, it looks like Madoka,
but that looks like Sayaka.
The other silhouette looks like Sayaka. So either that's the two of them and they're holding hands, or that's Sayaka and a shadow of her.
Or Sayaka and Kyoko.
Fair.
Because Kyoko's right next to her.
And she also has, like, more hair. So.
And gets completely blown back. Is this the soul gem bursting?
And becoming a grief seed, I would think. Because it gets that pin.
You're right, it does. Jesus fuck. So, is Sayaka dead or is Sayaka a witch? Or both?
I'm gonna go with witch, but then I have a question for you with that. If familiars just need to make as much harm as possible inevitably to become witches, then what are familiars? Are familiars almost purgatory between magical girl to witch. Like, you have to go through your time in familiar as a familiar and prove that you can be evil by killing and eating people, and then you become an actual full-fledged witch. A familiar.
Like, where does that come from? If witches come from magical girls,
a familiar is the middle step, is what I'm saying. It's the stepping stone into witch, because then what else would a familiar be when we're being told already in the series that that's what becomes a witch?
So would you say that Sayaka could be turning into a familiar right now?
That's what I'm putting on the table, only because we were told... Because why else would familiars exist as a concept?
That's a good point.
Why would there be two things that could become witches?
Do you think that Madoka makes a wish anyway here to try to save Sayaka or revert her from being a witch? Because the idea of even turning Sayaka back into a human from a magical girl, that would be child's play if she accepted that. That's from being a magical girl. Yeah. At the time that Kyubey had that conversation with Madoka, but I'm saying that if that's child's play, I wouldn't think this is off the table.
Yeah, that's fair.
Considering how strong Madoka seemingly is. Jesus Christ. I love labyrinths. I love what they are in this show. I don't want to see Sayaka's labyrinth. I don't want to see it. It's going to make me sad.
I don't want an actual ending where Sayaka is actually dead or gone. I feel like I will only be okay with seeing her labyrinth if it's inevitable that she will be saved. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because then I'll be intrigued to see how her labyrinth is depicted and how the fight goes, just out of an entertainment perspective. But then at the end of the day, I want you to be like, JK, she's okay. Like, did you like that little show we put on? Here she is. She's fully intact. Her body and her soul are now joined once again.
Do you think that, like, within time magic, there is, like, a limit of how much you can do or, like, how often you can do it? You know, like, because the idea, like, obviously, Madoka isn't a magical girl yet, but if, like, it's already this far gone, I could imagine there being a person being like, okay, well, I'm just gonna jump timelines again and try it again from this point, but when Sayaka's still alive, you know? Mm-hmm. But why is it, like, staying with our iteration of Madoka and, like, our universe of Madoka?
Another question for you. Homura, we keep getting language that tells us she didn't make a contract with Kyubey. Does that even mean that a Kyubey in the future? She hates Kyubey and wants to kill him. Did she make a contract with a Kyubey in the future? Maybe. No, because we keep getting told, oh, she doesn't have a contract with Kyubey. And I'm like, what does that mean? Does that mean Kyubey does die and then another thing fills his slot as being able to make contracts with girls in the future?
Maybe in this world there are several incubators other than Kyubey, you know, with their own being. Maybe they're all, like, somehow connected to Walpurgisnacht some fucking way. I don't know. Like, I can't confidently say if I feel like Kyubey is even on the side of, like, even though that we get the language of Kyubey saying what happens to magical girls here, it's appropriate that you, who will one day grow into witches, like, even with that, I'm like, can we confidently say Kyubey's on the side of witches and is trying to perpetuate a world with more witches?
I don't think we can confidently say anything in terms of actual feelings or motivation from a creature that seems to lack human values and human emotions and empathy. We just need to take what the words are from this creature as facts and possibly unbiased facts. Mm-hmm. While I do think they are manipulative in terms of when they speak and what exactly they say, there's a calculation there that is more so a slight understanding of human nature. Like, I've done interactions with humans before. They tend to not like to learn this information, so I just don't tell them it anymore. Less of an understanding of how humans work and more so from experience, I now know how to manipulate.
Yeah. When I'm keep going back to Homura's fucking room, dude.
You're obsessed with Homura's room.
It isn't just all the magic she's using. She herself has begun to curse the world. And whose fault do you think that is, huh? At this rate, she'll be causing you some trouble before Walpurgisnacht descends. You'd best be on your guard. Like, because like, Kyubey even saying that could potentially make it so Sayaka doesn't turn into a witch. You know?
That, and why is there a warning if Sayaka isn't... You know what could be interesting?
I love this show so
much. What
much.
if you don't have the natural talent? Ooh. So here we have Kyubey warning about Sayaka becoming a trouble for them before Walpurgisnacht. If Sayaka, right now we know of her as a magical girl, is not having any talent, probably being weaker than, would not actually win against Kyoko, would not win against Homura, would not win against maybe even Mami, because Mami was said to have some natural talent. What if that is like more of the road to you starting to become a witch? If you weren't actually like good at being a magical girl,
yeah,
that you then curse the world, and then maybe you're an even stronger witch.
Interesting.
Because why would there be such a warning? Because if Sayaka was to be fought right now by one of them, we've only been told information that would tell us that they could beat her.
Yeah.
Why would she be a warning, a troublesome thing ahead that they are being warned about? Unless there's some element that makes her more of a troublesome thing to be coming up against.
So wild.
Okay.
It pains me sometimes to discuss this show because I don't want to just talk about it. I want to watch it.
Yeah.
I want to know what's going to happen.
You just want to go into the next
because
episode.
I feel like an idiot. I feel like because I don't know what the truth is. I feel like everything I say is probably miles off, but every time we get more truth, it's my favorite thing of the day. It's my favorite thing.
Mm-hmm.
I had no fucking guess in the world, I feel like, that Homura came from a different timeline. Nothing. Kyoko's cool-ish. She's getting cooler. I love her showing up to stop Homura from killing Sayaka and then going again at the end and being there in front of Sayaka when she seemingly turns into something that seems like a witch.
I feel like the twists in the show and from a writing standpoint have been really effective, because a lot of the times if you're going to put something in the future that is not off the top of the head easy for your viewer to guess, you need to have laid a decent amount of groundwork. But I think that this show is able to do something where there isn't that tons of groundwork. There isn't that tons of things to call upon to make sense of something.
Yeah.
Like when I hear Homura time travel and time magic, I didn't immediately call upon 5 instances prior where I could have, maybe if I had thought about it a little harder, guessed that.
Yeah.
And I think that this show is doing something really interesting, because a lot of times when something's thrown in that feels maybe more random to the narrative, it can take you out of what you're watching. It undoes some immersion. It might be a little frustrating. Like, is this well written? If it's not something that's being like, we're told that to have something be really well written, things need to be like Easter eggs and little tiny stepstones that are like hidden there for the audience, that on a rewatch you'll be like, oh my god, which that might be the case, that on a rewatch of the show I would be like, oh, I'm so wrong with what I'm saying right now. But what I am saying is it's a compliment. It's a compliment that they're throwing things at me that I did not guess prior, that I don't even have evidence for at the moment of when I could have guessed it prior, and I still like it. I'm still happy with it. I'm still immersed. I'm so into it. These twists are exciting to me. They're plausible for the world, and that's what matters.
Yeah. All right. I want to talk more, but I don't feel like I have anything like I feel like everything I say is just going to be garbage.
We just need to watch another episode and then talk about that one and then cycle.
Do you think, last thing, like the event of Walpurgisnacht happening, do you think it is this like castle looking thing we get images of in Homura's room? And do you think that's the thing descending and it's like that's where it comes from? Sidebar, can people who aren't magical girls see Walpurgisnacht?
Great question. Great question.
Mm-hmm.
Great question. I just said that way too many times.
All right.
This is
I guess
my
that's all I
signal.
have.
This is my signal.
Yeah.
It is all I have as well.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time. I want to keep talking about it, but I'll shut up. Bye.